slow, moderate, deliberate pauses. Most people don't think, they borrow thoughts. Kant warned that this is how free people disappear. You probably believe you have your own opinions, your own views, your own judgments. But what if some of them aren't really yours at all? What if they were absorbed, repeated, and shared without ever being examined? This video is not about politics, it's not about trends, and it's not about debating opinions. It's about one idea Kant believed decides whether a person is truly free or quietly guided by others. To understand why this idea is so dangerous, we first need to understand how Kant himself thought and why he almost never left his city. Kant barely traveled, yet his thinking reshaped the modern world. He spent almost his entire life in a single city, Königsberg, not because he feared the outside world and not because he lacked curiosity. Kant stayed because he believed something most people avoid today. Deep thinking requires distance from noise. While others chased novelty, Kant protected stillness. He followed routines so strict that neighbors set their clocks by his daily walk. But this wasn't obsession with order for its own sake. It was discipline in service of one goal: intellectual independence. Many people describe Kant as a dry, isolated professor. That story misses the point. Kant wasn't hiding from the world, he was guarding his mind from being pulled apart by it. He understood something unsettling. The greatest danger to freedom is not chains, censorship, or force. The greatest danger is intellectual laziness. The moment we stop examining our own thoughts, we quietly hand our freedom to someone else. Kant believed that when thinking becomes passive, freedom dissolves without resistance. No tyrant is needed, no violence is required. People simply stop using their own reason. This belief leads directly to the phrase that made Kant famous and uncomfortable at the same time. Sapere Aude does not mean be smart. It means something far more dangerous. The phrase translates to dare to use your own understanding, not learn more facts, not repeat better arguments, but stop borrowing your thinking from others. Kant wasn't calling for intelligence, he was calling for responsibility. Because the moment you accept responsibility for your own thinking, something uncomfortable happens. You can no longer blame society for what you believe. You can no longer hide behind trends, ideologies, experts, or group opinions. Every belief you hold becomes yours to defend or to abandon. This is why Kant's idea scared power. A person who thinks for themselves cannot be easily managed. They don't move automatically with the crowd. They don't outsource judgment to authority. They pause, they question, they hesitate when others rush. But Kant never romanticized this kind of independence. Thinking for yourself has a psychological cost. It can make you lonely. It can make you uncertain. You may lose the comfort of agreement. You may feel exposed without the shelter of popular opinion. Most people don't avoid independent thinking because they are incapable of it. They avoid it because belonging feels safer than truth. And that is exactly why Kant's idea feels so uncomfortable today. We've never had more opinions and never thought less. Modern life doesn't silence thinking, it replaces it. Social media, 24-hour news cycles, influencers, hot takes, none of them force beliefs onto you. That's what makes them powerful. They don't command, they pre-package. They do the hardest part of thinking for you. A finished opinion arrives already framed, already emotionally charged, already socially approved. All you have to do is agree, share, repeat. Borrowed thoughts feel safe for 3 reasons. First, someone else already processed the complexity. You don't have to sit with uncertainty. Second, someone else already approved the conclusion. You know where your group stands. And third, repetition feels like participation. Saying something confidently can feel like thinking, even when it isn't. Kant would recognize this immediately. He warned that when people stop using their own understanding, freedom doesn't disappear overnight. It becomes performative. You look free, you speak freely, you choose between options, but the thinking that created those options happened somewhere else. You're not deciding, you're selecting. And the danger isn't that the opinions are wrong, it's that they're unexamined. Because when thinking is outsourced, responsibility disappears. If challenged, you can always say, "That's what everyone says," or "That's what the experts think," or "That's just how it is." Kant believed this is how free people slowly vanish, not through censorship, but through convenience. So how did he suggest we test whether a thought is truly ours?
If you can't trace the thought's origin, it likely isn't yours. Kant believed that the first test of free thinking is origin. Ask yourself, where did this belief actually come from? Not where you heard it last, but where it entered your mind. A headline, a creator you trust, a comment repeated often enough to feel true. Then ask the harder question, who benefits if I keep believing this? Every idea has gravity. It pulls you towards certain actions, loyalties, and identities. If a belief quietly serves someone else's agenda, Kant would say it deserves scrutiny, not because it's false, but because it wasn't chosen consciously. The second test is even more uncomfortable. Would I still believe this if everyone thought differently? This question separates conviction from conformity. If your belief only feels strong when echoed by others, it may not be a belief at all. It may be alignment. Kant argued that true thinking must be able to stand alone, even briefly, without applause. Ask yourself, would I defend this position if no one agreed with me? Would I still hold it if it cost me approval? If the answer is no, that doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. But it also means the thought may not yet be yours. The third question is the one most people avoid. If this belief leads to harm, am I willing to own it? For Kant, this was non-negotiable. Responsibility cannot be delegated, not to society, not to leaders, not to trends, not to everyone else. The moment you say, "I was just repeating what I heard," you've stepped out of moral adulthood. Thinking for Kant isn't neutral. It has weight, consequences, ethical force. To think freely is to accept that your beliefs don't just express who you are. They shape what you allow, support, and excuse. And once you start asking these questions, something shifts. You stop reacting automatically to trends. You pause before adopting opinions. You feel the friction of thinking again. And that friction is exactly where freedom begins. Trends don't manipulate you. They invite you to stop thinking. Kant would say the danger of trends is not their content, it's their timing. They arrive fast, they reward instant reaction, and they make hesitation feel like ignorance. So the first discipline is simple but uncomfortable. Pause before sharing. Not forever, not dramatically, just long enough to ask, do I actually understand this, or am I borrowing certainty? That pause breaks the spell. The second shift is replacing reaction with reflection. Most trends feed on emotion, outrage, belonging, fear of missing out. When something provokes a strong feeling, Kant would urge suspicion, not of the message, but of your own speed. Ask, what exactly am I reacting to here? The idea itself, or the social signal attached to it? Reflection doesn't mean neutrality. It means choosing your position deliberately, rather than inheriting it emotionally. The third practice is delaying opinion until clarity forms. In modern life, having an opinion quickly is treated as intelligence. Kant would argue the opposite. Freedom is not speed, freedom is deliberation. You are allowed to say, "I'm still thinking about this." You are allowed to remain undecided. You are allowed to let a thought mature before you speak it aloud. This is not withdrawal from the world, it's re-entry on your own terms. Notice what Kant does not advise. He doesn't tell you to delete social media. He doesn't demand isolation. He doesn't prescribe a lifestyle escape. Instead, he teaches a mental posture. Engage, but don't outsource. Listen, but don't surrender judgment. Participate without abandoning responsibility. When you adopt this posture, trends lose their grip, not because they disappear, but because they no longer think for you. And this leads to Kant's most unsettling conclusion, the one most people quietly avoid. A society of borrowed thinkers is easy to govern. Kant understood something that still makes this idea dangerous today. Freedom doesn't vanish through force, it dissolves quietly when responsibility is handed away. The moment you say, "Everyone thinks this," or "That's just how things are," or "I didn't really choose, I just followed," thinking has already been outsourced. Kant warned that when people stop examining their own thoughts, control no longer needs violence. Consensus does the work. Trends carry the weight. Authority becomes comfortable. This is why his idea unsettled power. Because a person who thinks for themselves cannot be managed through slogans, cannot be rushed by fear, cannot be relieved of responsibility. Freedom to Kant was never about rebellion, it was about ownership. Ownership of your reasoning, ownership of your beliefs, ownership of the consequences that follow. And that is why this idea remains dangerous. Because the moment borrowed thoughts end, freedom begins. Kant didn't ask you to be smarter, he asked you to be responsible. Responsible for where your thoughts come from. Responsible for whether you examine them. Responsible for what happens when you act on them. In a world full of borrowed opinions, that responsibility is rare, and that is exactly why it matters. If you want philosophy that sharpens thinking, not opinions, subscribe to the channel and learn to think the way Kant believed free people must.